Hello, adventurers. Today we are continuing with part 2 of our review of the Top 50 D&D Tips for Dungeon Masters post. The advice here is all great with one little exception that we didn't agree with at first, but we were able to workshop it into something worth keeping on the list. Now, before we get started, I want to send a big thanks to Apple user Sad Adult in Debt. Yes, that's his real Apple username, for leaving us a 5-star review. Quote, stumbled into this podcast and listened on a whim. Love the cast and the sound quality is superb. You hear that, guys? Superb, he says. Thank you so much, and we've already reached out to send you a swag package. If you'd like some free merch, just leave us a 5-star rating and a review either on Apple, Spotify, or at curmudgeonsanddragons.com/reviews. Send us a screenshot and we will hook you up. And with that out of the way, everybody roll initiative.
Sometimes talking with friends feels like role-playing. Sometimes it feels like combat. Join us at the round table and roll initiative. This is Curmudgeons and Dragons.
All right, hello, adventurers. Welcome back. I'm Jason Portizo. Today, I am joined by Ms. Josey Diaz.
Well, hello there.
Mr. Jim Crocker.
Hey.
doing great.
We're starting
already
real strong.
I'm ready for my close-up.
And if you think I'm editing around
everybody.
that, you're wrong. And Admiral Greg Genovas.
Well, hello there.
Yes.
He's a lieutenant.
Lieutenant.
No.
I don't know the difference.
I refuse. Spell it left and then I'll pronounce it that way.
All right, today we are continuing from episode 43, this list of top 50 tips for Dungeon Masters. Let's go to
And I think we decided last time that these are not in any particular order from best to worst. They are at random.
Yeah,
It says so on the top.
Yeah, but we had some discussion before we got into it last time about whether or not these ones were in any sort of order while we were talking about them.
I just think we kind of just got into, like, there was the one in particular about, which one was it? Like buffing up common monsters with special abilities. And we just kind of mentioned that, like, maybe that one can be skipped for brand new DMs.
Okay. I'll accept that.
Okay.
But for the benefit of our listeners, we are taking this in the order presented.
Yes.
And have done no sorting of any kind before we
because they're
list,
numbered and I don't want to change it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too much prep work for me.
This is from Reddit user Creative2567, and the link to the post will be in the show notes so you can read along. So we're going to start today at number 11 where we left off. You guys ready to go?
Fire away.
Yep.
You're going to start whether I'm ready or not.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's a courtesy, okay?
Yeah, well.
So number
just
11.
Point it out.
Number 11. Have your NPCs ask relevant questions about a PC's backstory in-game. This can be a fun way to help a player flesh out their character.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously good advice.
Sure.
But it also tacks on to something we said last time, which is to remember that backstory doesn't stop at character creation, that it's something that emerges and keeps going as you play.
Right. That can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. And this is just a reminder to have the PCs asking the questions. And this way the player can come up with those answers themselves, either on the fly or it's an excuse to tell the parts of the story that they really, really want to tell that in a way that is not coming up naturally otherwise.
The other thing that's interesting about this is that it is also kind of baked in a way to make those NPCs more real and engaging to the PCs. It's not just the background, but like suddenly that is a person that is actually interested in you and your story.
Yeah.
Without you having to like make up like, well, they had the same sword teacher, so hopefully that will mean that they're no. But if someone says to you, oh my God, tell me about your background. That sounds really interesting. Suddenly that person is more interesting to you as well. So I think that's great because that serves two purposes there.
I think it also kind of forces the players to develop their character more than some people are comfortable with, but also like gives them the opportunity to and a reason to. I feel like sometimes you just kind of, oh yeah, well, they're a ranger, so they're really into this, that, or the other thing. And it's like, no. You can have like a full character. It doesn't just have to be what you wrote on the page when you first built it.
Get them to come up with those parts that they haven't gotten to yet, or hopefully we're planning to come up with later. Well, now it's time to come up with them.
Yeah. And there's obviously very easy ways to come up with like incorporating the backstory in very organic ways where it's have an NPC who is also from maybe not that specific tribe or village, but like that general area. Everyone knows someone who's like, hey, I'm from that area too. Josey and your Jersey classmates, I think, can attest to that pretty well.
It is interesting that they don't specify in this piece of advice because you can do it either way. Do they explicitly mean, I've written a 5-page backstory, but I'm not going to just do a big info dump on that. So we want to provide me the opportunity to now and then be able to pull things from that thing that I've pre-written. Or is this like, we never thought to ask about how you felt about, taxation of goods being moved across the, via the canal, because we didn't know the canal existed until just now. What's your history with the canal kind of thing like that.
No, I agree with that.
It can absolutely be both.
You can do new stuff as well that you didn't even think to have in the background.
Like, Imagine you meet people for the first time and you sit down with them and you just start telling them your entire life story. Like, that's not how you socialize. I would, if 6 people, one after the other, just started telling me their entire life story, I would probably get up and leave. I'm sorry, I didn't sign up for this.
I mean, that's not how it should happen.
No.
Yeah, no. But
I've been playing in bar bands for over a decade. I promise you that's exactly how it happens.
I guess I'm just trying to say, like, even if you did develop your backstory, like right from the get-go, you don't have to reveal all of it all at once either.
Nor should you.
Well, and anybody that has that impulse, if the DM makes it clear, hey, don't worry, we're going to have opportunities. Absolutely, the NPCs are going to be asking you about this. So, like, you don't have to get it all out now. It's there. You have it. That's awesome. But don't worry, we'll give you the chance to do this. And letting everybody know that's also part of that, I think. So solid piece of advice.
Yeah,
there.
definitely. Number 12. If your players are struggling to figure out what to do in a situation, quickly recap their options.
This, I feel, my gut instinct is this can very quickly go into there is only one way to solve this particular task, although I don't think that's what the OP had in mind.
I think I would amend this to say the options that you as the players have already listed.
That I like that a lot better.
Yeah. That's
recap the options that they've
because
gone over.
My like short-term recall ability is subpar at best. So
on a good day.
By the time we go a full round, I need to look Greg in the eyes and be like, can you please help me? I don't remember what I said. Because you're much better at keeping track of that.
Well, marginally, yeah.
I just need it to be marginally. I just need somebody that's a little bit better at functioning than me at all times.
And I think that there's 2 kinds of struggling to figure out what to do. And one kind is we have no goddamn idea what to do next. And the other is we can't decide amongst these 5 things that, each of us wants to do what we should do next.
Mm-hmm.
And those are different things. And I think, like, Greg, you're absolutely right. There's like different kinds of recaps that you give depending on whether you're dealing with the one or with the other. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they're in a spot where they have just no clue whatsoever, how would you handle that?
I mean, I'm a big fan of the rule of 3. You present someone with 3 options that feels like real choice, but it's not so much that they're going to like get paralyzed trying to figure it out. And it's also like a manageable number as a DM for you to have enough ideas to actually make those 3 choices viable.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they got no idea.
So they have no idea, you would actually give them some options of what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're like, I mean, because that may mean that like I didn't sufficiently lampshade what the viable choices are, or that I thought I was being clear about, well, obviously, like, we see this on the DM Academy all the time where someone's like, I thought I was being totally obvious about what the direction to go in was. And the players were like, no, right. You just like, like that guy sounded like he was trying to sell us something. Why would we go there? Kind of thing like that. So
I think it's especially important for new players too.
So players don't know how to get past the ball. And then it's like, you have no clue whatsoever. It's like roll a perception check. And then no matter what they roll, it's like there's a ladder glistening in the corner over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
It's got a faint fairy glow about it.
or just hand it to him. But yeah, that's, I mean, those, I think that's
the light from
thing.
the window is highlighting the ladder.
Oh my god, no, I think it'd be better if an enemy walks into the room, hands you the ladder, and then goes and walks out.
Says nothing and moonwalks away.
That's good advice, but I'd like if it were up to me, I'd split this into the two use cases there.
Number 13. You can create fun and distinct NPCs with just a single line of text. Note their name, their occupation, a personality trait, and a physical trait. Bareen Jadeshaw, a shy tinker who constantly flips a coin. Jalep Ironbrand, an anxious goldsmith with red cheeks, etc.
Yeah.
I think this goes into like a justification of the character and like why they are there. Like obviously town needs blacksmith, town needs all the things that make things work, and fleshing out them a little bit, just like, yeah, he has like a habit of constantly flipping a coin, kind of really does add so much to that character that does not take a lot of time to do.
This kind of ties in a little bit. If you go back to episode 8, this was our voice acting exercises episode. And we had a link in there. It was a character voice generator. And it just gave you like, higher, low pitch, front of the mouth, back of the mouth. And then like some sort of like vocal cue for them, like whether they stuttered a lot, cursed a lot, only spoken like single word sentences, kind of like that. You can combine that with this to give them a very, the idea here is to create, their words are fun and distinct.
I think it gives them some depth.
You need an NPC to stand out. You should be able to slip into an NPC's voice and have the players know exactly who it is without you telling them. All right, that's all we got to say about that.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's that's solid, but that's just good storytelling advice for anything.
Yeah,
not just role playing games. Even in.
And it also, I guess I'll add one more thing, that it gives you kind of like a hook that if that character ends up staying in the campaign a little bit longer, like you'd be like, why are you always flipping that coin? And it gives you a chance to develop that a little bit more too.
Yeah.
Or when you inevitably kill them, because that's something Jim loves us to do. In their dying breath, they hand you the coin and it means a whole bunch.
Yeah, the rogue is just like, I must have that coin.
Yeah.
Fucking coin he's flipping all the time. There's something going on with that coin.
It's always something going on with the coin. It's
he
always
shanks him and it's like an arcade token from when he was a kid or something like that.
The coin is the BBEG.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. There we go. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
Shocking twist.
You have stat blocks for a coin.
It's a bell jar.
Number 14. Monsters' hit points are a range, not a single number. You can effectively lower the challenge rating of a monster by reducing its hit points.
Yeah, I mean, this goes into building encounters where it's like, if you have a group of goblins, they all don't have just 7. It is, 2d6. If you had the time and the ability to, you could make individual HP bars for every monster that you encounter. And that is a fun way to spice up some encounters for sure.
Did we mention in a previous episode what was it? You were like, oh, I end the encounter when it's no longer fun.
Oh yeah, the kids playing in the library, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a good rule of thumb as well. If you don't want to like pick a bunch of specific numbers for the different ones, just be like, yeah, you know what? You killed 2 of them with that shot. Good job.
It's almost like XP versus milestone, where it's just like, I feel like that should have been a kill. So, you got it.
It's a very easy way to reward like cool strategies or like a well-described critical hit.
Can we get the patent on milestone combat?
I think we can actually.
We can roll with this.
If you file it, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
That is true. The bar for entry is super low.
I think it's important to note that the reverse of this is not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Which is that if you add a pile of hit points, all that does is drag the fight out and make it longer.
Yes.
Maybe a little harder, but not in a way that's any fun.
I think the important distinction here is that by lowering HP, you can get more difficult monsters into a fight that could possibly do a whole bunch of damage. And and really put a dent in you before, they die early.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing, so if it were me, rather than lowering their hit points, I'd keep their hit points where they're at, but lower their defenses, because you lower their AC by to you're going to be hitting them 10% more often. And I think it's always more fun for the players when they're just getting to, land more hits. Because whiffing sucks.
Just change one of their stats, like their
never not going to suck. Yeah, lower their saves by a couple or something like that.
You've got one real gimpy dragon. He's just like dragging one wing around.
Yeah, again, like you said, like lowering their spell saves so that they're easier to defend against. Yeah, that's a couple ways to go about that. It's good.
But yeah, boy, it's easier to kind of declock them than it is to overclock them in a way that doesn't just make it a slog.
Like I said, dumping HP on like a goblin. It's like, do you really want a little guy poking at you for an hour?
Yeah.
Josey, not a word. Or Greg, not a word.
I didn't say anything. I had a mouthful of delicious water.
Number 15, quote unquote, defeating a monster could mean sneaking past it, convincing it to help you, or tricking it. All of these are worthy of XP and progress.
Yeah, scaring it off.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I think it needs to be clearer from the DM side when a non-combat option is viable. It's always kind of an option, and sometimes it's super not an option at all. Like some things just got to die in this game. But and I think I've gotten into this a little bit as a player, where that's something where it's not super obvious to me when to try the diplomacy route or to try to charm it into joining us and things like that.
I mean, especially with humanoid critters where they're essentially mercenaries, where they're like, we're here because the necromancer's paying us gold to, guard his back door. You're like, oh yeah, how much is he paying you? Oh, I happen to have twice that here if you guys just walk away. And besides, he's not going to be around to pay you after we're done with him. So, that's kind of one of my favorite things is to basically just pay the guards to just walk away. But
I'm in the Thieves Guild. Maybe you could look the other way.
I do think it's important to make clear as the DM that any of these encounters that you win by alternate means are unequivocal wins.
Yeah, and I think that's the main point of the particular wording in this tip.
Yep.
Saying that they are all worthy of XP and progress.
Yeah.
Not every problem is for a barbarian.
Yeah, if they had killed them, they wouldn't have to watch their backs, but if they bribed them instead, they still shouldn't have to watch their backs, and you should be real clear about that as the DM.
You might have even made a future ally. They could be like, hey, we're working for this guy, but you guys pay a little bit better,
Maybe get your back watched, Number 16, give some of your magic items physical descriptions and a history, along with minor properties and quirks. These make them feel unique and valuable.
Ooh. So
it's not just a +1 sword, it's a +1 sword that tells jokes or something.
Fizbin's actually has this mechanic for a weapon that has been sitting in a dragon sword for a while, and it gets the awakened property. And it is specific to the color of dragon that is the owner of the horde. So if a player manages to steal it, it gets better properties depending on the age of the dragon, how long it's been in the horde. So I think that is a very cool way to jump off in terms of giving your items backstories.
Yeah, the word that is doing God's work in that sentence is some.
Yes.
I was so happy.
Every healing of potion, every potion of healing does not have to have a backstory associated with it.
This one smells like peaches. That one's blueberry flavored.
Yes, give it a vintage. And,
I'm
lovingly
not
describe
against
the bottle
them having
or whatever.
flavors, though. I always wonder what a healing potion tastes like.
That can be fine. Yeah, but you shouldn't. The converse is you should not feel pressure to do this with every single +1 dagger you hand out.
Yeah, I think that's got to be reserved for some sort of special stuff or real bullshit stuff that's just there to be fun. Yeah, this is great. Number 17. Occasionally have a major NPC ride in and save the day. This is especially satisfying if it's a high-level PC from a previous campaign.
This is their first huge dud. This is a turd on this list. This is the turd in the punch bowl of this list.
I can't tell you how many horror stories I have both read and just listened to about DNPCs entirely making the party irrelevant. Where it's just no, we are just sitting here and watching, pardon the phrasing, the DM play with himself.
You could use this, I think, in instances where the party's about to get TPK'd or something, and you don't necessarily, you want to give them that opportunity. You're like, okay, you know what? I don't want you to have to all roll up new characters. I don't want the campaign to end here. This person that maybe you introduce as like a side character or a quest giver or something later on in your campaign can come in and like give them an out.
I don't even love that. That's, I mean, like having high level NPCs in the world is fine. And even having a situation where they are in charge of doing something the party can't while the party's doing something they can. Mm-hmm. Like you're fighting the minions of Thanos on the ground. You know, Carol Danvers is up flying through the attacking enemy starship. You know, you're not going to do anything about that flying enemy starship, but she's also occupied with that. Like you can have that, you know, your godlike paladin, like 19th level paladin buddy. He wrestles with the, you know, the archdemon over the gate while you guys hold the line against the, you know, the low level demon horde or something like that.
Yeah, that's a common
cool.
one. That's fine.
Yeah. I will say, if you do, like Josey said, don't want to have a TPK, I don't think if you do go this route, should not be a singular NPC. I feel like narratively, it would feel better for the party and just the story in terms of what the players interact with to have like a squad or like the cavalry come in and don't take out whatever they were having trouble with, but got them to safety.
Yeah. Okay. I see that. And Josey, that in that situation, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. That like they
an extraction mission.
Yeah, they teleport you away, or they, you know, like throw up a force field and get you out of there, something like that.
Yeah, just give them an out so that you don't all have to, like, let's say you built something. Sense. Yeah,
I can think of one instance where this was actually narratively excellent, and it was on NatPod, a very late episode in the first campaign. I don't want to spoil the campaign. There's a part where the party gets split, and there's two big fights going on simultaneously, and one player goes down and he's about to like die. And instead of his last death save, he gets an Arcana check, and he had a book with him that turned out was infused with a spell from another NPC. And then that became a magic item later after it saved him, and it just got him back up to finish the fight. And without spoiling the several parts of that story are all wrapped into that, without completely killing the whole story. That's all I can really get into, because I know at least one person that listens to this show is currently in campaign 1 right now. So I don't want to spoil that for Zach. There's ways to make it kind of cool. And like I said, the extraction mission angle is kind of cool, but this is a little in contrast to tip number 4, which was use your NPCs to make the PCs look good.
I guess if that save is the payoff for having like role played well, treated that character well, been respectful to that high level NPC previously, if it's like, you know, if there's a bunch of narrative build up to that then leads to where it makes sense that this person would intervene to save you. And that's cool. I I don't have a problem with that, but boy, the like make it a high level PC from a previous campaign thing is such a like specific to people that are playing multiple campaigns with the same people in a row and stuff like that. That's real kind of corner case advice.
But also,
at least for me, that's
every campaign can have a little Deus Ex Machina as a treat.
And that's the exact wording I was just going to say to not do.
No. Everybody can have, every campaign, not every person, can have a little Deus Ex Machina, just like a spronkling.
I think what our immediate thought was, and why we were just so quick to just like shut this tip down, was that the first place we went to was Gandalf swoops in, kills everybody in one shot, and why were you even here? You know, and we found a bunch of situations to where that's not the case, and it can be kind of cool to where, like, you know, being saved by a force field and being teleported away. Okay, that is still a Deus Ex Machina. I'm still thinking like you're being swarmed, and just like someone snaps their fingers and they're all gone. I think that was our initial thought.
That's like narratively very boring too. A Deus Ex Machina should progress the story without taking away from it.
Yeah. You can do a non-sweeping Deus Ex Machina.
So we're gonna put a little asterisk on this one
within reason,
with
and play it super carefully.
Do your work. Got it.
Yes. Now, if you're like a high level cleric and it's a literal Deus Ex Machina, then no, then we could talk. Number 18, combine humanoids with strange mounts to create interest. A drow riding giant spiders, goblins riding giant bats, a wizard riding a chimera.
There's nothing strange about drow riding spiders.
Yeah, I guess not. Well, I mean, seeing spiders as a mount.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm sorry, no. If I saw a drow riding at me on a spider, if I saw anybody riding at me on a spider, I'd be a little...
If I saw a regular size spider that was not even magical, I just probably would just turn around. Not a fan.
I think this goes back a few tips ago with just like being able to balance your encounters well. That is a very cool thing where you have how did this goblin essentially domesticate giant bats? That's a cool and interesting hook. But you also have to take into account that mounts have their own stat blocks and are able to interact in the fight.
All the more reason to use them.
Yeah.
The wizard riding a chimera, that's awesome.
Right now in my campaign, our halfling Marla has a mastiff mount that she rides into battle. And
Amazing.
That's awesome.
I would love to, and now that fairy is a legit race, I would love to see a fairy riding a corgi. Just because it's hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
19. Make a list of all the NPCs mentioned in the character backstories the players create. Then find ways to inject them into your campaign.
Yep. This is great advice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And really ties into the other stuff about have the NPC ask questions and stuff like this. This is all.
And this is one of the ones that like almost feels obvious, but just like having it written and spelled out for you is just like a great reminder to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is one of the reasons why we have like backstory charts in the player's handbook. There's one, and there's one specific to Wildmount, and I'm sure other campaign books have them as well. I just haven't gotten to them. And like, you know, you roll to see how many siblings do you have, and like, what's your relationship with them, and are they still alive, and how are they doing, and what are they? You know, you can just generate all this stuff with a couple of die rolls. And, you know, I didn't even think of making the reason why my turtle was even reluctantly on a quest to begin with to make it his brother's fault.
I think the important little addendum there is that list is not just a DM tool. That should be publicly accessible to everybody so that all the players can look at it too. And they can see what somebody else did and go, oh, his uncle was a master swordsman. We haven't established who taught me how to use a blade yet. Like that kind of thing. So make sure that everybody can look at that list.
Now, Jim, when you're saying everybody should have that list, are you saying like throughout the campaign or just like during a session 0?
No, I mean throughout the campaign. That should just be you throw it up on a Google Doc with some columns that say like, who made it, what's their relationship, what's the background, let other people add notes to it.
I think there's some importance to having at least some of that not be public information. So things can manifest themselves and actually surprise other players.
Sure.
I think for each
yeah,
person that it's relevant, like it's the relevant background information from, you can add it to a public list once it's mentioned within the campaign.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like if in game 2, Jason, you tell me that your uncle is a master swordsman, in game 14, like in session 14, I might not remember that anymore. So just having that up there where we can all look at, so like the DM doesn't have to remind everybody every time they mention that character what's going on.
I also remembered what I was going to say.
Players are probably taking these notes anyway, so like they should be collaborative.
They
notes.
should.
And then another thing about it is that having all of these unique backgrounds that you've explored for each character helps take what is essentially like a cookie cutter story for hundreds of thousands of people and making it unique to your group of people.
All right. That's 19. One more for today. I like this one a lot. Number 20. Not every search requires a perception check. If there's a ring in the vase, if someone looks in the vase, they find the ring.
Wisdom perception or intelligence investigation.
Either one.
Isn't that what passive perception is for?
Yeah.
To be like, you look in the
the
vase, but you're not blind and you don't need glasses, so you see that there's a ring in there.
I think this goes to a ruling people I find often forget about, taking 10 or taking 20, where it's just, no, you take your time exploring the room, you find a ring in the vase. And it can be as simple as that.
So dedicating time instead of doing a roll.
Yeah.
Or instead of checking in specific places.
Yeah. And like you can still ask for a roll if it's like a hidden compartment.
You can do a roll for hidden compartments and finding stuff that's actually hidden. But if it's like in this example, like you look in the vase, like you're not going to miss a ring in a vase.
There's some things that you will just see upon walking into a room. Like if there's a table with a bunch of cutlery and stuff and a bag of coins with coins spilling out of it, you don't need to roll to see that. That's setting the scene for something.
Right.
Yeah.
This feels like the other, and this may be a rule later, piece of advice later in the list. I didn't look ahead, but there's always the kind of like, I guess we'll just say tip that if the outcome is already known, there's no reason to roll. So like if this works both ways. So if an outcome is impossible, so like if you're going to set the DC to like 35 and and they only have like a +5 to whatever it is, don't make them roll. They're just going to fail. Rolling is a waste of time and rolling is false hope. And then the opposite end of this is something like this, where there's no way to fail. You don't need to roll when the outcome is already 100%.
This is also a time to remember that skills like investigation and perception and stuff like this exist to compress a bunch of stuff into a single moment of resolution so that you don't have to say, okay, I rifle the dresser. I go through all of their clothes. I turn the drawers upside down to see if there's anything taped underneath them. I reach my hand into the back of the dresser you say, roll perception and we cover all of that with that. But if they do specifically say the thing that they need to do, then you just allied the roll because they've essentially kind of auto succeeded without having a roll.
Yeah. Especially if there's like role playing reasons why they know to do that thing.
Exactly. Oh, right. Especially then. Yeah. Yeah. Like, your successful, conversation that you had with, like the chambermaid before, exactly where to go to get the, incriminating, etchings or something like that. So yeah.
You move the vase and you hear a little tink, tink, tink.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not rolling for that. So that is 11 through 20. We're going to continue this series.
Really just 9 out of 10 today.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
9 like a quarter out of 10 today because one needed like a lot of explanation to make it good, but it was, it's not 0% good. It's not 100, but it was.
We've got at least an A-.
This is the closest to a miss we've had yet.
With caveats.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I hope this is helpful. If it is helpful, let us know. Follow us on everything. Just go to convergenceanddragons.com. All our links are over there. That's really all I kind of got for you today. So, gentlemen, lady, Greg, guys, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Thank you for listening to Curmudgeons and Dragons. Please share this with your favorite adventurers. Leave a review on Apple and follow us on social media. All links can be found at curmudgeonsanddragons.com. Practice safe adventuring, my friends.
This has been a JTP Audio podcast. Thanks for listening.